I remember walking in here as a kid, my eyes darting between the bright colours, running my hands over the hulls and rails of kayaks trying to understand how the different shapes worked, and I remember my eyes wandering up to the roof and finding part of Pyranha's Museum of Kayaks. This was Dave Manby's kayak, picked up from the factory right here in Runcorn, England, and driven overland to Everest, carried up to 17,500 foot of elevation and launched into the river. This is still the highest elevation of river ever kayaked. Fiberglass kayaks working their way down a tight, rocky, powerful Himalayan first descent is not a recipe for success, and this is one of the very few kayaks that made it back. However, Dave Manby adds that there would have been more of them, but they had to sell 2 of them to buy diesel. Once again, remembering that they drove overland to get to Everest and therefore had to drive back home to the UK. Lots was learned after that expedition, and the Orinoco was version 2 of that kayak design, which in general was beefed up and made much stronger, though still made from composite materials. This one apparently belonged to the legend Mike Jones. In a time where kayak expeditions weren't really a thing, Mike Jones and his team were the people getting them done. You can read more about Mike Jones on Dave Manby's website, link in the description below. The Trident. This was the first official Pyranha design. Back then there wasn't much difference between a general purpose kayak and a slalom kayak, but as the sport of slalom developed and slalom kayak designs began to get smaller to fit under the gates and be more maneuverable, they started to look like this. This is the legend Richard Fox's kayak. He raced this kayak to a gold medal in the 1981 World Championships in Bala, North Wales. I personally think Pyranha has the best plastic on the market, and it's important to note that they didn't figure out their unique moulding process overnight. It started in 1981.
So this is the Pyranha Freestyle. So this is our first roto-molded kayak that we shaped and produced. So this was made back in 1981. Back then it was very early days of roto-molding, but there was definitely a few kind of key bits that we picked and learned and developed. So you'll see that actually we didn't mold the cockpit onto this boat because we weren't sure at the time how you'd get that cockpit released out of the mold. So instead of molding the cockpit in, we had a post-mold cockpit that clips onto it. Boats before this were generally fiberglass, composite materials, Kevlar and bits like that. And if you did get pinned and crushed, the whole kayak would basically just collapse around you, break into lots of little pieces if you can swim away. Moving into plastic boats, we were pretty early to realise that we needed to make the cockpit a bit longer, so that if the boat did get strapped in a pin, you could still get out of that cockpit. We also produced a big roto-molded pillar that goes all the way down to the feet. We've got self-adjusting footrests, so they're always filling all of that space, just adjusted by this little rope cleat here. So this boat also was the first kayak anywhere in the world moulded, aided by computers. So we're going back to 1981. It was controlled by washing machine motors and a BBC microcomputer. Graham's father, the boss's father, he was working with some people in a nuclear research place not far away. He pulled those guys down at the weekends to come and help program and work out how the moulding process would work with computer control. And we've basically been using similar technology, just improving constantly over the years. So we're still built around the safety cage. We're still using computer-controlled roto-moulding, which is the only real way of doing it and getting repeatable results. So this was definitely the early days of roto-moulding for us, and it's kind of been a lifeblood of our business ever since.
This kayak was used to kayak down the Dudkosi River as part of the Kites and Kayaks expedition off Everest. Look at the size of the camera mount on this thing. Long before the days of GoPro, it gives me a whole new appreciation for how easy it is to capture and share moments from a river nowadays. Theo Berman's world record kayak, taking down the tight, gnarly 98-foot Johnston Falls in Alberta. Rumour has it that this waterfall has since collapsed, but I haven't been able to confirm that rumour or if it's possibly still runnable or not. I remember looking at these kayaks, reading the stories and thinking to myself, one day I'm going to have my own kayak and stories up here. My composite Molan got third at the World Champs in 2010. It was the first proper high-performance carbon freestyle kayak Pyranha had ever made, and I learned a lot about composite materials and the processes involved working with the design team to make this one. I was 16 years old. My Macno that I took down the 128-foot Big Banana Falls a few years ago. A part of this story that not many people know about is that the owner of Pyranha, Graham Ackeriff, texted me after I completed the waterfall to say congrats and well done, and could I please bring the kayak back home for his kayak museum. And I'd always dreamt about having my own kayak up there, but I had to explain to him that I was young and broke and I had agreed to sell the kayak to pay for my accommodation and my next plane ticket, to which he responded, "Hi Bren, I've just paid the full retail price of the kayak into your bank account. Please make sure you and the kayak get home safely," which was an amazing moment because I had no money at that point. I picked this kayak at the time because it was so stable and it had such a strong shape. It worked out perfectly for that waterfall. Up here, we have some designs that never made it to production, such as the tricks. How sick is that? And then that's you, just be on the train with 3 pieces of kayak. That would have been amazing if it worked. But I think sadly it didn't do a great job of staying together on the rivers. This kayak I'm about to show you now was the kayak of my dreams when I was a kid. This model, the S6, was the first Pyranha kayak I ever owned, and I was so proud of it and I was so stoked on it. And then years later, working at the shop and being sponsored by Pyranha, I got to see this kayak. I guess this actually was a prototype and it got used on the river. You can see all the scratches, there's a couple of dings here and there. So cool for me to see this kayak. Like I say, this was my first Pyranha kayak that I ever owned, the plastic production version, and see the composite prototype is so cool to me. I had to grab it, get in my gear and give it a go. This is the kayak of 14-year-old Bren's dreams right here. Composite S6 prototype. So sick. Zero pop. This kayak, you can see from the volume distribution, is way different to freestyle kayaks in this day and age. So you can see it really tapers off so it's nice and slicey at either end. That doesn't give you that much pop for aerial tricks, but we're gonna give it a go anyway. The canal's not that deep. Hopefully I don't hit the bottom and break this beautiful one-of-a-kind composite prototype. And then we'll see if we can get a loop out of it. Oh my god. All right, this time for sure. That was honestly so hard to loop. Like the modern freestyle kayaks, even the Jed from however many years ago that came out, it gets aerial and it loops and it pulls through so easily. This thing was so hard to get like a nice pop out of the water, and some forward momentum, and then to pull the tail through was so hard. It's pretty cool to see how much designs have moved on since. But this thing cartwheels like nothing else. It's just effortless, just like super sick. Right now we're gonna go back to the factory and pick up the newest kayak from Pyranha. Finally picking up my very own firecracker. I was out in the prototypes during the design stage, and every single day in the water in the prototype I was just grinning ear to ear. I was so impressed with the design, and I was just so excited to actually get it built and out into production and get some time to really show what this kayak can do. And I think it's going to open a lot of doors for a whole range of kayakers. For people starting out and starting to look at playing the river more and doing some downriver freestyle and getting vertical, it's just going to open so many doors. Because it's shorter than the Ripper, it snaps up to vertical so much easier. And again, because it's shorter, if your local spot is shallow, it's not that deep, then you can still get this thing vertical in spots where the Ripper would be hitting bottom and stopping your rotation. So that creates a lot of options for people. And for more experienced kayakers, having that shorter length, the rocker, the width at the knees, I think it just opens up a whole new world of possibilities for downriver freestyle. And that's the biggest reason why I'm so excited about this kayak, and I can't wait to show you what it can do. There is so much more to talk about in Pyranha's history, and so many kayaks that I actually left out because I just didn't want this video to be an hour long. But if you want to see more of it and you want to learn more about Pyranha's history, comment below, let me know, and hopefully I can find the boss with a spare minute and we can make a proper video documenting all of the amazing moments at Pyranha over the last 50 plus years I think we're on now. Big thanks to Graham McAriff, Dave Manby, Andy Butler and Andy Lees for sharing some of the history and the stories behind these kayaks. I knew bits and bobs, but not nearly as much as I should have, especially when you consider I used to work in the kayak shop where these kayaks live, and I used to look up at them all the time. So it was really cool for me to have my knowledge of them expanded, and then to share that with you guys and the stories behind those kayaks. I loved doing it, and I loved learning more about some of these kayaks. There's such a big history in our sport, and I'm a massive kayak geek. I love finding old obscure blogs or videos about kayaking way back in the day and trying to, sometimes I learn things from them, and other times I just get a new appreciation for what we can do in the sport because of what the older generation did in the sport, And I've compiled a playlist on YouTube of some of the old school kayaking videos that I found on YouTube, which you can check out here and in the video description below. If you have any old school videos on YouTube that aren't in that playlist, please hit me up and send them to me, and I'll add them in and give you a shout out. I know that on Vimeo and other video hosting platforms there are more old school videos, but I'm just trying to condense the ones on YouTube into one place and then eventually figure out how to add those other videos into that playlist just so it's all in one smooth place. There's also an Instagram account called Kayaking History, I think, and I'm going to link it below. They post all sorts of cool snippets and things about our sport's history. I have no idea who runs a page, but good job to whoever does that. And yeah, I think that's all for this video. Cheers for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the water.